the reality on the front line is we're losing 60 to 100 men a day. It's difficult to stand by in this conflict and see the bloodshed and see these men and women in hospital with limbs missing, and see the atrocities, the raping of children and raping of women, the civilians that are getting mutilated, shot and killed in their towns, whole villages destroyed. It's difficult for me to communicate the words to really express the horrors of war on the front line to our leaders.
Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has warned that the war in Ukraine could unleash an unprecedented wave of hunger and destitution around the world. In the meantime, the battle for control of the key eastern city of Severodonetsk continues as Russia tries to capture all of the Luhansk region. Joining me now is Matthew Robinson, head of the Foreign Nationals in the Georgian Legion. Matthew, hello.
Good evening, Henry, and thank you for having me on the show.
Good to talk to you. What's the position where you are? Where are you exactly?
Currently on the outskirts of Kyiv.
Okay. And what do you see at the moment? What have you seen today?
Today, getting some feedback from the guys on the front, basically just under heavy artillery. That's a constant threat that they have to endure every day. It's a tragedy that we don't have the tools and the equipment to fight back effectively against the Russian artillery that can shoot longer and further than currently the assets that we have on the ground.
And we keep hearing that equipment, that long-range equipment, which go up to 50 or so miles, is on its way. But, of course, people are saying it needed to be here quite some time ago. You know, we're thankful, but it's too slow. We're being crushed here.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And from what I understand, the great president of this nation, Zelensky, he requested over 60 of these M270 multiple launch rocket systems, and I believe they're only supplying 3. So it's a large disconnect from what we hear in the Western media about what support they're offering and the reality here on the ground.
How do you explain that, Matthew? How do you explain that? Do you know?
I'm not sure. Either our leaders, Boris Johnson and perhaps Ben Wallace, the defense secretary, is maybe perhaps out of touch with the reality of the front line here. I know alone that you provided some assistance and some aid, but modern warfare is expensive. But I am equally bamboozled by the fact that we are not supplying more long-range artillery, more drones, more armored vehicles to this conflict zone. Especially in the proximity to, for example, Russia, only 1,100 kilometers away. I feel like we're sadly lacking in either the exposure of really what's happening on the front to our political leaders, but we desperately need a lot more equipment. Simply providing 3 long-range launch systems is highly inadequate.
Matthew, tell me more about the unit you're in, the Foreign Nationals in the Georgian Legion. Tell us more about them and who's there. What kind of people have come?
Yes, we've got 2 battalions of over approximately 11 to 1,200 men and women. They've been fighting the Russians since 2014. And again, I witnessed firsthand the shortage of equipment and the finances that are in this country, especially for the Georgian Legion. I'm gobsmacked that we don't have the support that we need. We've got foreign volunteers, including myself, in this country in an unpaid position. And where is the West's support? It's very confusing.
Why do you think you're not getting that support? Is it because for all the praise that's been heaped upon the overseas fighters by President Zelensky, governments, including ours, remain ambivalent? Because on the one hand, we had Liz Truss saying, yes, get out there. And on the other hand, we've had people like Ben Wallace, the defense secretary, saying, don't.
Yes. Well, perhaps if they provided the arms and the tools and the equipment, foreign volunteers wouldn't have to come to this country. Russia's been annexing territory from the Ukraine for a long time. So the writing was on the wall for this. They were clearly encroaching into this territory for a long time. NATO, the UK, the US has, in my opinion, stood idly by. And providing the arms and the shipment is too little too late. But they have an opportunity. They have an opportunity to change their tactics and change their policies, not hide behind bureaucracy, and deliver what this country needs.
I mean, you've presented it in a very, very simple, raw fashion, Matthew, but it's not necessarily true, is it, to say they've stood idly by, because we're talking about American support in the billions, in the tens of billions. The UK support, not quite at the same level, but significant, both in terms of equipment and money. Perhaps it's not come as quickly as people would want. There have been lots of other geopolitical considerations about gas, about getting unanimity among NATO countries and EU countries. It's a very murky picture, but to be fair, they haven't stood idly by, have they?
Sorry?
To be fair, they haven't really stood idly by. Perhaps they've been late, perhaps it's taken them too long to get to each stage, but they haven't really stood idly by, have they? They haven't put boots on the ground, but they have given equipment and they have given money to the Ukrainians. And they've taken refugees.
Yes, I do agree. They have shown some level of support. But the reality on the front line is we're losing 60 to 100 men a day. And it's difficult to stand by in this conflict and see the bloodshed and see these men and women in hospital with limbs missing and see the atrocities, the raping of children and raping of women, the civilians that are getting mutilated, shot and killed in their towns, whole villages destroyed. It's difficult for me to communicate the words to really express the horrors of war on the front line to our leaders. And it's in layman's terms, but it's the reality of this conflict.
I wasn't diminishing it. I wasn't diminishing it, Matthew. I was just trying to, present a wider picture. But just tell me this: you've stayed there. You're head of foreign nationals in the Georgian Legion. I hear about 70% of people who've come out to join the International Legion have already turned back. Is that because of the lack of equipment? Is that because of the chaos?
Yes, it's multiple factors. It's a stressful place to be. There's a big shortage of tools and equipment, from body armor, helmets, and vests. The body armor is incredibly difficult to get hold of, lightweight ceramic body armor. It's a chaotic war zone. Supply issues, logistics issues. There's a myriad of problems here. But I mean, America spent $6.4 trillion on the wars in the Middle East. The UK defense budget is the US defense budget is 801 billion. I just feel like it's time that we provided billions more. This is a modern warfare, and perhaps billions isn't the right number here. Maybe trillions is. But the attrition of foreign nationals is largely because we have high expectations also. We have expectations to be fully equipped, and that's not the reality on the ground here in this country.
Okay, Matthew, thank you very much indeed for joining us.